Okay, well, I wanted to show some folks what the Neo Geo LED panels were composed of before I assemble some of this and put it into my Neo Geo for Alan. Alan and I plan on continuing the project and making more documentation, but again, I want to test it out in my machine and make sure it works. So let me talk about a little bit of what the pieces are. So the first element is what I'll probably be calling like this LED main interface board. It basically has a 10-pin and an 8-pin JST kind of header on it. The 8-pin header goes to the Neo Geo. The 10-pin header goes out to the LED PCB boards, which I'll show you. It has 4 dipped style ICs on it, TTL logic chips, some resistors, capacitors, etc., and some connections. The connection at the top here, that connection goes to control the marquee LED. So that's one piece of the system. The other pieces are these LED PCB boards. See if this can focus. But what these are have 2 10-pin headers, 2 ICs which look like they're timer modules which interface with the pots at the end here so that the pots work with the timer to dim the LEDs. They kind of work in this jumper mode where you control 2 panels off of this PCB. The signals come from the main PCB here and then jumper along to another PCB for the LEDs. Now you have 4. So this strip is actually controlling both of these pins to the LEDs. So together you have these 2 individual PCB LED controllers and this third board. So together, if you wanted a 4-slot Neo Geo setup, you'd have 2 of the PCB boards for the LEDs and 1 main board. And again, what we put together is a document that talks about what components are in each of these. I'll leave it to Alan. He'll describe more if he's actually going to be hooking these up. Then additionally, there's a small PCB that basically just connects with the main board coming off of the connection. Sorry about the shadow. If you again have this is the kind of constant on to the marquee PCB. This would connect here to the main PCB, and this would connect out to the EL panel, or the kind of the LED panel rather, on the marquee. There's a pot here as well to dim it. So a lot of the logic on this board is going to 2 things, as I understand. Again, Alan can correct some of this. But one part of this is one of these is actually a decoder, which is taking the input from the Neo Geo and deciding which of the 4 panels is to be on. The other piece of logic, or at least some of the circuitry here, is taking what was a 12-volt input and dividing that down to 12 volts, because these LEDs take a lower voltage. So that is the 3 kind of components of the controller. Then what is a panel? It's basically a plastic kind of square that Alan had custom made with individual smaller dots inside. I don't know if you can see those, which help to make sure that the light is evenly distributed. And what you then do is you take one of these LED strips and you put it alongside the panel here. So the idea is the LEDs come out this way. You need to turn them, stick them to the side of this panel, which is transparent except for the idea that it can reflect light evenly, and then you have what looks like one of these composite panels when the LEDs are taped to the side, and then you have the positive and negative terminals coming out. These plates then get covered with a translucent material so that they're not as bright, and that's what combines this panel. So then what you of course have to do, because you want them out at the same time, is the positive wires need to be wired together and go to one of the LED PCB controller pins, same with the negative wires. Then once you've gotten that together, you'll want to put them on something like this, the right kind of backing that's going to allow you to slide that into the Neo Geo. So what I've got to do now is I've got some additional components, actually not so much components, but wires. I've got wires that I'm going to use right now to solder these together to make them longer, and then I have some jumper kind of connectors that are going to allow me to wire this up nicely. So this is the initial video, kind of just giving an overview. I'm going to then put this together and then post that video of it working as well, and then continue to work with Alan to try to get this into people's hands. Okay, thanks a lot.